How do you deal with people you don't get along with? At some point, right, we are not going to get along with someone. And sometimes these are just minor annoyances. Sometimes it's because there's a real clash and maybe we even consider someone else an enemy. And so to think about how do we deal with people in those situations and everything kind of in between, because it's going to happen where we've got to be in the same room, we've got to have a conversation with, for whatever reason, we can't always avoid somebody we don't like. So the Dalai Lama says, in the practice of tolerance, one's enemy is the best teacher. And so when you're like, man, that's hard. Like if you're trying to learn tolerance, the best way is through interacting with one's enemy. And this is all about, right, of going, hold up just a minute. What is my perspective on this? I would do it this way. I think it should be done this way. I think that person is wrong because of, and to recognize that we have a variety of perspectives, ways at coming at things. And sometimes we aren't going to agree on that. And so we have to learn this thing about tolerance of going, okay, well, I don't agree with you, but we can still have a conversation. That's not how I would do it. But what can I learn from this moment? And so to really be able to take that step back and understanding ourselves and why do we have an issue with someone else? Why do we have an issue with the way they do things, with the way they say things? And this is more about our own self-reflection because we can't actually control anyone else. We can only respond. And that brings us to going, all right, what other piece of wisdom might there be? And this one comes out of Proverbs. And it says, if your enemies are starving, feed them some bread. If they are thirsty, give them water to drink. By doing this, you will heap burning coals on their heads, and the Lord will reward you. How do we treat others when we don't like them? And this is all about going, all right, you know what? I'm not going to stoop to that level. I don't like how they've treated me or what they have done, but I am not going to do the same thing. I'm not going to return exactly what they did. And this is all about thinking through how we treat people with respect and integrity, even when we don't like them, when they annoy us. Maybe it's more severe and it's an enemy. And to recognize just how much that kindness and integrity is like heaping burning coals on top of their head. If they don't like us and we are kind, right? Think about that for a second. And this really goes into the teachings of Jesus in a couple places in the book of Matthew when he says, therefore you should treat people in the same way that you want people to treat you. This is the law and the prophets. Or another one, and the second is like it. You must love your neighbor as yourself. And so to think about how you will deal with people that you don't like. That there's an element of self-reflection, but there's also then an element of how do you keep kindness and integrity? How do you keep compassion and mercy in your own life towards others, no matter what they are up to? How do we begin to respond in a way that doesn't let others get at us? How do we level up and go, you know what, I'm not about mistreating people. I am about reacting differently. And the philosopher Thomas Paine says, he that would make his own liberty secure must guard even his enemy from oppression. For if he violates this duty, he establishes a precedent that will reach to himself. So thinking about how do we really treat other people even when we don't like them, we don't get along, that we continue to hold on to integrity and God's compassion no matter what they may do. Pray with me. Compassionate God, you are always compassionate with us, ready to show us mercy and surround us with your grace. Yet when we have to deal with people we don't like, it is hard for us to show those things. It is difficult at times for us to respond in a way that reflects your presence. Your call upon us is to love others as we love ourselves. and to treat people in the same way we want to be treated. Help us, gracious God. Help us to take the breath we need and notice your presence. Help us to respond in a way that reflects your compassion. Help us in our words and our actions to reflect your mercy. Amen.